Hey there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today. And yes, I know this one is going to be very polarizing for some people. I'm not so terribly offended by this particular edition, only because it is just the biblical text. I understand that the cover on it can be even offensive to some people. I can see where they're coming from, certainly. But again, this is just the biblical text, so I don't have as much of a problem with it as, say, other editions that I have where there's additional helps or just additional things in the Bible that probably don't even need to belong in the Bible. So let's just go ahead and get into it, right? You're probably wondering, what am I talking about? So we'll go ahead and just hop right into it there. So this particular edition is produced by International Bible. It is a blackface type text, and it is, I'm assuming, produced by the John C. Winston Company, who are the publishers in Philadelphia, and they also have Chicago and Toronto are two of their publishing areas where they have. And so this is the edition right there. We'll take a closer look in a second. But this is the box that it comes in. It's just a little silver box, a little silver presentation box there, a little two-piece box, nothing crazy, just taped on the corners there to kind of hold it together. We'll open it up and take a peek in the inside. I don't think we've done that in a while. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think we've done it in a while. The inside is just kind of a, no nonsense kind of box, nothing crazy. It did have, apparently, at some point, these sort of Yapp trainers, which I am not a fan of because all it does is distort the way the Yapp looks. And it looks like at one point one of them fell out here, and then there's kind of the remaining one there. So I guess whoever had it before me probably had the same idea that those aren't sort of the best invention ever. So let's go ahead and get into the review here. We'll go ahead and just get right into it. You can see here it says, presented by Lake Erie Consistory, Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Valley of Cleveland. And so, yes, this is a Scottish Rite edition of the Bible. Now, I won't say an edition of the Bible. I really shouldn't say edition of the Bible because it's not a Scottish Rite edition of the Bible. It merely just has the imprinting here on the cover. So I don't know if this Bible was just purchased by, say, a Masonic or a Scottish Rite, and then they had it, the cover kind of embossed with this insignia and information, which I think is possibly the case because I see a lot of these pop up on eBay, and they usually don't sell. Not that they don't sell for much; they usually just don't sell at all. And typically they're kind of personalized here with the specific I don't even know lodge, I guess, that they're from. So I'm assuming they probably just bought these in bulk at the headquarters and then just have them imprinted as needed for whoever's ordering them. So again, thankfully, this one does not have any additional information, nothing kind of goofy like that. I do have another edition that I'm going to review, and I think that one does have some goofy stuff. And I even have some other like study Bible editions that have some really weird stuff in there. And I'm still on the fence if I should show that stuff. I know that I think I reviewed a Mormon Bible before, and I was very hesitant about showing what was in that one. I'm kind of in the same camp with these sorts of things because I don't want to perpetuate any false teachings that are in those books. I don't want to perpetuate any kind of nonsense or any oddness. And kind of the more I dig into some of these cults, I'll call them that. I think that's fair. The more that I kind of investigate into some of these cults, there's some very large and glaring issues that I would take issue with if I was seen as, hey, go ahead and look through this stuff, and you can pause it if you want to read it. And there's a bunch of anti-biblical nonsense. So I'm not super comfortable doing that. I don't know if maybe one of these days I will, maybe it might be different with maybe a Masonic Bible. I've had some people get really heated saying that, hey, Masonic Bibles don't have any extra information in them. It's just the biblical text. Yeah, that's not true. I definitely have some editions that have a lot of extra stuff in them. So I don't know if it'd be valuable in that sense to show hey, here's why Freemasonry is not a biblical thing for you to do, right? And I know I'm probably going to get some flack down there in the comments and flack away. You guys are always welcome to comment. I'm a big supporter of First Amendment rights, as long as you keep it cordial, right? No cursing. Don't just be a goon like that, right? That sort of thing. Then I'll kick you out. Sorry. I know cursing technically is protected, but I want this to be, this is a Bible oriented channel, and if you can't keep your comments biblical, then I got nothing for you. See you later. So enough of this. Let's go ahead and get into this, I guess. So we'll go and take a look. You can see the Yapp, right? And it's just a genuine leather cover. There's, nothing spectacular about it. It is a very kind of heavy grain. It's fairly tactile. You do have a little kind of inner perimeter line there and a very fine kind of outer perimeter line there on the edge. I don't know if the camera's even picking it up, but it is very fine on the edge there. You do have this sort of insignia emblazoned on the front with the information of the lodge there. Now, again, if you're just looking for a Bible, a reader Bible that's of high quality, these can be found very, very inexpensively online because they don't sell well. So I don't know if maybe you'd want to take some alcohol and try and remove this, or I've heard even WD-40 will remove it, or whatever the case is, or if you're just fine with it because it's just going to be a reader for you, or want to like throw in your car in a truck or something like that. It might be an option for you just for an inexpensive vintage edition of a King James Bible. It's going to be your call, right? We'll go to the spine. We can see Holy Bible self-pronouncing, and then International Bible at the bottom of the Bible there. Goodness. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of hub indications there. They're not raised or anything. They are slightly burnished. And we can see the perimeter lines continue around to the back. And again, it is just a leather cover. We do have a fairly, a Yapp there. Not a, I wouldn't call it a generous Yapp or even a semi-Yapp. I don't know, maybe a semi-Yapp, I guess. I don't know. But it does have some overhang there to kind of protect the page edges. And it has done its job because you can see the page edges are fairly nice. As far as the other features go, we do have white head and tail bands. And again, that beautiful gold gilt. And you can tell that's gold. It's very lustrous. It has a high luster. And then we'll take a look at the red if I can, if I can curve it enough. There's the red under gold. Go the opposite direction as well. Maybe this is a very stiff binding. Maybe not. That's probably about as good as we're going to get. On the bottom there, you can see the white tailband. And then we have a purple ribbon with a very small hole in it, it looks like. But a purple ribbon. And this is just a fabric ribbon. There's really nothing to write home about on this one. Just a very kind of thin purple fabric ribbon. So, yeah, you can kind of like hear it. It doesn't even like sound smooth. Such a weird thing to get caught up on, isn't it? All right, so let's go ahead and open it up. And again, you'll notice that there's kind of standard Bible production qualities here. Look at that. That corner work is really impressive. I can't even see any folds. I don't know how some producers manage that. But it's just a paste down edition. Nothing too crazy. There's kind of a black paper end sheet here and then a synthetic kind of material on the kind of on the reverse side of the cover. Yeah. So yeah, that's just a synthetic material, like a kind of a woven. You can see it a little bit there, the delineation between the two. You have this sort of kind of like woven paper kind of thing, and then the reverse side of the leather there. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's a little distinction there. We'll go ahead and get into it. We have the original price, looks like $6.50. A couple blank sheets here, fairly thick. Then we have the Holy Bible title page. And it is the International series, and it is self-pronouncing, so it's going to have those pronunciation marks that we're familiar with for the King James Version. Then it is a black face type, and it's a text edition, so there's not going to be any kind of extras. It's text only. Produced in Philadelphia, I would imagine, by the John C. Winston Company. And we'll flip, and there is a little bit of printing information there. And then we have our table of contents. And the pronunciation guide. Ooh, it's very stiff. And we have the first book of Moses called Genesis. I'll go ahead and zoom in here. Whoop, a lot, because this is a small little edition, very hand-sized. Or not even hand-sized, like a compact, definitely compact edition. So there you go. It is a double column verse by verse. We'll turn a few pages so we can see it better. Double column verse by verse. We have a lot of the same features that we've been seeing recently. I mean, that's kind of the KJV standard, right? We have the book and the chapter numbers up in the outer corners. We have running headers in the gutter, page numbers in the bottom center. We do have chapter indicators here. There is a running tally of chapters. Here we see number 2. We'll have to flip later on to see if it's total number of chapters are broken down between Old Testament and New Testament like we've seen in another edition. Then we have right here kind of the same thing that we saw in the previous Winston edition, or was that a Winston? National. National. Maybe the Winston too, but definitely the National edition. There's kind of it's like just a little breakdown there, like a little, normally at the beginning of chapters, you see like a little kind of condensed text that explains what's going to happen in the entire chapter. This kind of gives verse breakdown. So we can see here, like starting at verse 1 is the first Sabbath, then verse 8, the Garden of Eden, then verse 21, the making of woman. So it kind of breaks it down and kind of segments it based on kind of what would you call that? Like topics, I guess, not topics, but like subjects, I guess, within the chapter. Normally, in more modern texts, you'll have like the kind of the little headers, right? Little bold headers kind of running throughout the text. This is like that, just condensed down to this small area. So it's not within the biblical text. So there's no confusion. It's also italicized and slightly smaller. So it makes it clear that it wasn't part of the original text of the Bible, right? It does have double line drop caps here at the beginning of each chapter. And I think that's pretty much it. Again, there's no cross references, none of that kind of stuff. Ooh, let's see if we can open this. There we go, get it to lay flat. It is a very nice, look at that red under gold art gilt, very nice. And we'll flip through it a little bit. So again, just the KJV text. And again, there's nothing added to this one. There's no notes before, after, or in between testaments. Sometimes you'll see that they shuffle them in. There's no sort of really anything that would relate to sort of Masonic beliefs or anything like that. So this is essentially just a text KJV. So if you were looking for just a very nice text edition of the KJV, this might be the way for you to go. Again, if you can ignore what's on the cover, it's going to be your call. Go ahead and turn to Psalm 119. And we do not have the Hebrew characters, but we do have the transliterations. You can see there, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the paper. The paper is absolutely astounding. A very nice paper. It blows me away that we don't still have paper like this, to be honest. Wish we did. No show through whatsoever. Beautiful paper. And again, a nice creamy color, kind of like we saw in the last edition from... I have to keep looking over my shoulder. National. And this is why I wonder, so this is international, but it's produced by the John C. Winston Company. So, I wonder if at some point, national combined with international, or I don't know, they all got purchased by HarperCollins, right? Again, if you guys know, please feel free to chime down. I'll pin it to the top so everybody can benefit from your knowledge. It does appear that they are running an overall tally of the verses. Let's go to the New Testament, or not the verses, the chapters. We'll go to the New Testament and check and see if that's the same. But man, it looks so great. Look at this paper. Oh, it's nice. This is a very nice presentation. Oh, went too far. There we go. So the end of Malachi, end of the Old Testament. And then we have the New Testament title page. And again, a reminder that it is the blackface type text. And we have the Gospel according to Matthew. And you can see here that it begins anew, the numbering for the overall chapters. So in this instance, I believe Revelation 22 will be the 260th chapter. It should be. Right? And so here we can see that text in Matthew. It is going to be a black letter text. There's no red letters to speak of, which I know a lot of people prefer. And certainly, if you're getting Bibles from this era, the red letter was spotty at best. So it might be better served to just pick up a black text edition. So let's go ahead and get to the end. And there's the end of Revelation 22. 260. So yeah, the tally begins fresh at the New Testament break. And we just have a blank sheet there. Then we have our maps. Go ahead and zoom in here to the first one. You guys can certainly pause if you need to. These are pretty standard, the pastel colors. With a lot of the really fine detail. I don't know that you would even be able to read some of these on the right-hand side. I certainly cannot make out anything other than Manasseh up here and Zebulun, but all of this really little stuff, I can barely tell what it is. So it just is what it is, I guess, for these older maps, especially in these compact sizes. I don't know why they didn't choose to zoom in more or something like that, because some of these get really hard to see. I don't know how anybody could read really anything in there, but maybe with a magnifying glass, I guess, you could aid the process. Now, one thing I've noticed with Masonic Bibles that they tend to do, and they did not do it here again, which makes me think that this Bible was just produced as a normal Bible, and then they stamp the cover. But one thing that I see a lot in Masonic Bibles is they'll add in a lot of diagrams of Solomon's Temple, because if you're familiar with the way Masonic history works, they believe they were got their foundation, pun intended. They got their foundation with Solomon's Temple and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of historical ties back to that. Is what it is, right? But so for this edition, it's absent all of that. You don't see any sort of focus on any of that sort of material. So again, this is probably just an edition of the Bible that was produced, and then they bought up a bunch of them and stamped the covers. So then in the back, we do have what appears to be an item number. It looks like 6290. So that's about the only thing that we see. We just have the end sheet there, and that's it. It wraps up. So nice little addition. Really, truly, honestly. I wish it was absent this. When I bought, it's funny because when I bought this, my thinking was a little different, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat with the Scottish Rite thing. And I actually was looking for this edition with the 32nd degree. Mason stamp and yeah, I can do without it now. Who cares? So yeah, I know some people are really, they're going to be, and understandably so, they're going to be kind of frustrated with this. And I see where you're coming from. Totally agree. But if you're one of those people who this really doesn't bother you, it doesn't really matter to you, and you just want a nice KJV text, this might be your way to go, at least for a vintage edition, and a more compact size with a Yapp. I mean, it checks a lot of boxes. Sadly, this might uncheck a few boxes for some people, and it's okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get measurements, and I'll go ahead and pull the Yapp out so we can get like a full measurement of the Yapp, I guess. We'll turn around the other way since we're in the great US of A. Let's see. It comes in at 7 and, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 7 3/8 of an inch tall with the Yapp extended. And it is about 4 5/8 of an inch wide. It is a little thick, not super thick, but it's definitely getting up there. Comes in just over 1.5 inches thick. Go ahead and take a look at the text. Now this text is probably going to be fairly small. I would guess maybe around an 8-point because this is a fairly small edition. But we'll go ahead and get an accurate reading. Start with uppercase. Looks to be about 8.5-point font versus Times New Roman. And for the lowercase, probably the same if I had to guess. It's like, yeah, it's about 8.5-point font versus Times New Roman. So 8.5-point font versus Times New Roman for this specific edition. If you're looking for something that's a little more smaller, right, compact size, certainly you could pick up these editions. Again, as far as Masonic Bibles and Scottish Rite Bibles go, there are a lot of them on eBay, and again, they typically don't sell at all from what I've seen. And when they do sell, they sell for very little, a pittance really, sir. And you know, again, that's understandable to me. I can understand where people are coming from. I might maybe, you know, warn you against the other editions with the extra materials, unless for some reason that interests you. I haven't dug deep enough into a lot of the extra materials. One version that I have does have like something like a concordance in the back. It's more like a Strong's, right? So it has like numbers next to certain words, but it's only certain words, and those words are like very like Freemason oriented. And I know a lot of their sort of stuff revolves around like what is it, like gematria, numerology, that sort of thing. So some of the numbers, like it was just weird how like the numbers lined up to certain words. So again, I don't know if I'm gonna like do a review and show that kind of stuff. I have another Bible here in the stack of Bibles that I'm going to be reviewing today, and one of them is I think it's like an actual Masonic Bible, but I guess you have to wait a couple weeks and see if you're interested in that. Otherwise, I guess if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. If you want to yell at me and tell me I shouldn't even be showing this, then please, by all means, do so. If you just want to, I don't know, vent, feel free to vent down below. Sometimes I review these things and I'm like, oh, this is going to be, yeah. I have quite a variety and an array of translations and Bibles. And to me, this is probably the least innocuous one, only because it is just a KJV Bible with somebody's nonsense stamped on the cover. So it's probably the least offensive version of some of the things that I have in my collection. But yeah, whatever you feel like doing down below, just keep it cordial is all I ask. Until next time, Bible buddies. Bye.